Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking mental blocks and more importantly, how to work through one if you are currently experiencing one. As a Team GB gymnast, and I'm lucky enough to still be an active Team GB gymnast, which is just amazing, I've experienced lots of mental blocks. So personally, I've experienced a mental block myself. You might have heard me talk about it before on the channel, and when I was younger, I really struggled with doing a flick, and in particular, joining a round off to a flick. And I've also got that perspective as a coach as well, so I'm hoping I can provide some points for you guys and hopefully you can take something from this video if you are struggling with a mental block. I always like to share my experience as a gymnast and as a coach because I think it'd be unfair not to give an insight into the experiences I've had as a national team gymnast, as a coach, day-to-day life, and as a usual gymnast Joe. We're back, we've got funky lighting, check this out. I don't know, I might be a bit too blue, purple, but you can deal with it now. So in no particular order, we're gonna get underway and get into this video. So the very first point when I'm speaking to a parent or a gymnast who's experiencing mental blocks is to do not define it as a mental block. No. I see this all the time, and this is obviously, these are my personal opinions, but when you define it as a mental block, I feel like you're physically putting something in the way. You're blaming it on something, you're physically putting that thing, you're putting that image in the gymnast's head, in your mind, you're creating something. And I've seen time and time before, people, you manifest it. You might have a small little issue or something and it becomes a block, and then everyone starts acknowledging it, it's a block. It's like, if you manifest something, you become it. It's the same thing with a block. I see parents, gymnasts, friends of gymnasts, everybody kind of, sometimes even coaches, acknowledging it and saying, using the word block, using this. So the first thing I would do is scrap that. I would start with a challenge, call it something else. Is it a struggle? What are you currently going through? And this is something I like to use with all of our gymnasts and anybody I kind of get to see or speak to and sometimes I get questions about mental blocks and all these kind of things. I always say, do not define it as a mental block. That is the first point. I think a lot of mental blocks are made way worse. And I think because it's like anything, when you're more accepting of it, you become more accustomed to it, you acknowledge it more, which is great, and surrounding this, but I do think labeling it as a mental block kind of initiates this, no, I've got a mental block, no, I can't, I'm not willing to work through it, whatever, which sometimes, like I say, sometimes some people can call it a block and work through it, but I see lots of people kind of make the problem worse than maybe it was in their head initially. So, number two, what is super important with this is to reflect and try and understand why. Now, like anything, reflection is super important. If something happens and you reflect on it, you can kind of acknowledge your actions, maybe other variables you didn't have control of, and you can get an understanding and create and develop a path of progress to your next goal or thing. And it's the same with mental blocks. It's not always the case, but what happened to cause this? Why are you feeling this way? These are questions you can ask. Did you have a bad fall? Did something else happen in your life that kind of had a bit of a knock-on effect on this? Is it a confidence thing? There's so many questions surrounding this, and I see from gymnasts day to day, week in, week out. And again, you have to reflect on it. You have to go through it. You have to understand, okay, why? Because sometimes as part of the process, you can eradicate ever feeling like this again, and you can kind of avoid certain things, other blocks, by maybe not putting yourself in that position, or if you understand, you can kind of prevent it from happening again. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you can never have a mental block again if you understand why you had it. If you landed on your head really badly and then your confidence is gone and you just don't feel like you can, yes, that could happen again. But to understand maybe why you felt a certain way about something is a really good, I think, starting point for developing your confidence, taking that next step to smashing that mental block, because that's what you want to do. That's what you're trying to do. Now, all these points are points I've written down, reflected over, and kind of I've put together my top tips or advice for how I would challenge a mental block, deal with a mental block, or struggle with a gymnast, or how I've personally done it myself. So I hope you find these points useful. Now we're getting to the real meat on the bone here. So once we have not defined it as a block, we've ticked that box, and we've moved on to reflecting and understanding why. The next stage, number 3, is to break down the skill. Now, going back to basics, breaking down the skill is so, so important. Usually, when we go through a phase of kind of learning a new skill, we're going to have kind of challenges along the way. It's exactly the same with a mental block. Now, this mental block could have been caused by often bad fall, just not knowing where you are, a spatial cue that's missing. There's so many different ways you can have them. But if you can break down the skill, and what I mean by this is go back to the basics, completely strip it back, take a few steps backwards in your progression. Now, I'll use an example of this, but this might be a twisting kind of block, or you might be experiencing something like little twisties is another name for it as well. And what we would do, quite a common one, is the timing of twist. Now, what we teach now is we want a nice late twist, and sometimes kind of people struggle with this, they kind of go early or whatever. Okay, in the long run, it's going to be more beneficial for us in what we do. What I would do is, if you are kind of in this situation, I would strip it back a little bit. You take them back a stage, okay? So you take them back to maybe the step before the skill, the straight front land in the pit before you turn. With any skill, if you pull it back to basics, okay, I want you to go through your preparations. What preparations are there? From the very start, you build those building blocks back in, okay? Throughout these phases, what you're going to do is feel the skill. What spotting spatial cues need to be in and amongst those preparations? Is it a coach's support? Is it a coach spotting? Is it having a coach present? Is it a positivity cue? Is it a verbal cue? What is it that helps you? Okay, use them, see how far you can build up to that skill, and then eventually we're going to take some of them out. Can you remove that kind of coach from the spotting role? Can you get rid of that verbal cue? Can you use a spatial cue to replace that? And all you're doing here is, it's like a snowball effect. You're just building momentum, building momentum, building momentum. Step, 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 taking the next one. All of these things add up. And again, you might complete that skill, you might not land it, you might not do it, whatever. It is like doing a new skill for the first time. What do? We work up to a skill, we perform the skill, we go back, we consolidate phases. That is how we're going to smash it, and it's so, so important. It's so important. If you are struggling with something, go back to basics, always, and for the safety. Super, super important. I spend so much of my time trying to convince gymnasts they need to work on the basics. It's so important. The first thing I was told when I got to the national team level, I started understanding the flaws maybe in my technique and where I needed to improve. And we went straight back to basics, and that is your way, safely, progressively, and to develop yourself to the best you can be. So yeah, going back to basics is a massive one with the mental block. Obviously, going back to the basics is all about developing confidence. A lot of these mental blocks, we can see if we can keep to do this, a lot of these mental blocks are from this. They're a lack of confidence, something, and often self-belief kind of has a big part to play in this. So if you can kind of build that confidence, get back to it, and slowly, it's not saying it's going to be easy, but slowly build back up to it, you will be on the steps to success of destroying that mental block. Now, the next one is number 4, I believe. Every time I have struggled with a mental challenge or block, or when I was younger, I put the emphasis and focused on the other areas or aspects I was good at or I could develop. Now, focusing on other areas within gymnastics is a great way to help you challenge the mental struggle. Now, what I mean by this is, okay, in team gym, we're lucky, we've got 3 pieces of apparatus, 4, including the vault and trampette. But even there, if we're struggling with a certain skill, say we're struggling on the tumble track, okay, we can also tumble forwards, which is amazing. We can use the trampette, we can use the trampette vault, we can do our floor work. We've got lots of other areas to focus on. Focusing on these other areas are going to allow you to obviously also develop those places and aspects alongside this, but also give you a confidence boost, give you something you enjoy doing alongside this, where you might be experiencing a bit of a sad time, because it can be frustrating for the gymnast, it can be upsetting. I've been there, I've done that, I've bought the t-shirt. I think that's what gives me a bit of an edge when I'm kind of speaking to a gymnast about this situation, or a parent, because I've been there, I've understood it, I've been upset about these things, I've cried. There's so many times in life where you're going to get frustrated and you're going to kind of feel like this. So it's super important. Now, if you're not lucky enough to have other pieces of apparatus in your sport, say you are a trampoline gymnast or a tumbling gymnast per se, and your struggle is specifically on a certain thing you cannot avoid. Again, I would suggest, what other areas within that can you really break down? For me, it was strength and conditioning, and it's part of the reason why I work with gymnasts today in the way I do. Like, I found my kind of aid in strength and conditioning. I was able to outwork other people in it. It's something I could constantly kind of throw myself at again. When I threw myself at strength and conditioning, everything just became a little bit better. I could jump higher. I could run faster. My skills were being performed a little bit neater. All of these things came from me being able to put a bit more energy into strength and conditioning, because I was good at it and I knew I could outwork people through determination and hard work, where they might pit me on other pieces or they were performing more skills than me. But I know when we got on the floor and we were doing our basic conditioning or we were on whatever we were doing, I knew I could outwork them there. So definitely focusing on different areas is super, super important, because it can be such a sad time. And we do gymnastics because we love it. We want to love it. There's going to be challenges. If you want to be good at anything, you're always going to face challenges and hurdles. But like I say, you've got to do it with a smile on your face. And if you can work on these other key areas, one day, when you get your confidence back in that skill, whatever it was, or you pass this kind of bump in the road, your other areas won't be lacking as well, because you can put too much emphasis on it. You can sometimes not work around something, but it might drag down a couple of your other areas if you spend your whole time fretting about this certain skill or certain thing. Like, I've seen it all the time in competitions. The thing you usually worry about the most, you might perform well, but then you might make a mistake on something that you're not even considering. So I see that quite a lot. Number 5, acknowledge that it is a phase and it'll pass. Like we say, a bump in the road. If you consistently keep turning up, giving it your all, using solutions like these, or working with your coach, your personal coaches, whoever coaches, parents, and you have a good support network while you're going through this struggle, not a mental block, struggle, you will get through it. It'll pass, it'll be fine. I see so many gymnasts getting really frustrated, and it's so easy when we're in these kind of situations to only think about the now, okay? Take a look back, maybe write down or look at some of your past challenges, past skills. What have you struggled on before? What competition did you not make one year, but this year you've done it? You've been there. When we look at life up close, we can only see kind of the negatives. Sometimes we need to take the old glasses off, sit back a little bit, and have a look at kind of just how far you've come. These challenges will pass. It won't be the last challenge, it's just the next one in your journey right now. There's a good quote, I think Charlie Chaplin says it, but I remember seeing Rowan Atkinson say it. But it is that life up close is a tragedy, but from afar is a comedy. And he is really kind of reiterating what I'm saying here. Well, I'm reiterating what he's saying. But when we're in the moment, and we're in this kind of situation, everything's bad. It's the same in life. Sometimes you kind of, have the worst week, whatever. But when you look back at it, or you look back on a situation, in a couple of years, a few years, months, whatever, when you pass this, you're going to laugh about it. And that's something I try to take with me into life. And I think it is a good way to conclude our points of how to deal with a mental block. If you're a gymnast looking to improve your strength and conditioning, check out the foundation programs. You can sign up to the program today. I'll put the link in the bio. If you're looking to improve your strength and conditioning from home or in the gym, you want to get faster, you want to jump higher, you want to perform bigger skills, you want to improve your performance and be a better gymnast all round, join the program. You get to work with me, personalized program, specific to the sport, something you can do. You have access to the exercise library. You join the community where other people like you, like your child, are wanting to improve, perform better, and help your gymnast or yourself become the best gymnast you can be. So, thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you are new to the channel and you are looking for more educational gymnastics tips from a coach, gymnast, and lifestyle, daily travel vlog, holiday, gym, styly videos, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment on the video if you have any suggestions of content you would like to see from the channel.